Shoutout naman diyan, Kuya Kesha. Ayusin natin 'to. Naku po, ayan. Ayan tuloy. Sobrang busy, hindi nice diyan. Okey, meron. Eto, okay, let's get the ball rolling. Alright guys, welcome back dito sa latest episode ng deep dive natin. Ah, Medyo marami tayong gustong pag-usapan dahil, nakikita ko talaga na mukhang marami nati-trigger diyan sa ating mga interventions. In fairness naman, pagdating sa ating mga interventions on sino mga dapat standard bearer ng, tunay na opposition at middle forces, mukhang nagkakaroon tayo ng balanse, equilibrium at saka, ah, sapagkat, sa tingin ko kulang pa rin yung level ng nuance, at least nakikita natin na may konting appreciation sa ginagawa natin. Pero pansin ko nga dito sa ating diskurso at saka yung ating intervention ukol sa mga usapin, kaunlaran ng ating bansa at ekonomiya, napapansin ko nga na medyo mukhang natatamaan yung ibang kaibigan natin na sana, kaysa mag-react kaagad, basahin nila hindi lang yung mga sinusulat natin pero actually yung mga mas detalyado, na mga libro, na mga pag-aaral at saka mga research at saka mga datasets na nire-refer parati po natin sa ating mga articles, columns, academic works and non-academic works. In fact, parati natin nilalagyan ng mga links, hyperlinks, endnotes, footnotes, bibliography, lahat po yung sinasabi natin dahil ayaw naman natin nakakaakal lang yung sinasabi natin dito. Shoutout of course dun sa ating mga kaibigan sa Reddit. Dun talaga kitang-kita natin na marami sa ating mga kababayan at mga kaibigan ay mukhang na-appreciate nila etong, medyo, kakaibang anggulo, ng ating diskusyon. In fact, napansin ko nga may mga ka-DDS pa tayo na natuwa dahil sabi nila at least hindi na si Tatay Digong lang ang usapin or Sara Duterte or mga, bardagulan at saka awayan sa loob ng ating bansa. At least ngayon binibigyan natin ng, pansin at atensyon, yung mga mga bagay na mahalaga para sa kaunlaran ng ating bansa. Ako naman of course simple lang ang aking position diyan, if wala tayong matinong leaders, 'di ba? Kung hindi matino yung mga leaders natin, kung purong mga kurakot, mga matay tayo, at saka mga palpak, katulad ng nakikita natin sa legacy ni Sara Duterte sa Department of Education, legacy ni Digong for instance sa overall yung level of governance at yung effectivity ng governance sa ating bansa. Kaya nga mahalaga na wala tayong mga budol na leaders, eh. Kaya nga sana meron tayong mga totoong leaders, effective leaders, world-class leaders para naman maangat natin yung antas ng, ating bansa pagdating sa kalidad ng serbisyo ng, gobyerno, pagdating sa kalidad ng ating decision making at saka yung mga mahalagang desisyon na dapat, ah, magsasagawa sa ating mga, iba't ibang institusyon. Balikan natin itong issue na 'to. Shoutout dun sa mga kaibigan natin sa Reddit, who have been posting consistently dito sa ating mga industrial policy related, uh, episodes, at least 2 episodes with, Stevie Conjing, 2 episodes with Lele Claudio, at least one TV also episode with Dr. Jesus Felipe, and then of course yung ating ginawa natin na all-star panel, sa Manila House. Shout out to Manila House for also hosting that. And then not to mention yung mga iba't ibang mga shorts, iba't ibang mga, corollary podcasts at mga contents na ginawa natin base dun sa diskusyon natin. At of course, tuwan-tuwa tayo na lampas sa at least 1,000,000, 'no, yung mga views na nakita natin dun sa mga shorts et cetera. Si Stevie lang siguro nakakalahating milyon na siya dun sa Instagram, Facebook lang. Actually more, 700,000. Yung part ni Jesus Felipe, I think magtu-200,000 na just one short about him. And of course, other shorts and highlights, and of course, the full episode na in-upload natin sa iba't ibang platforms natin. So maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga kaibigan natin na nag kahit papaano na-appreciate nila po yung ating efforts natin dito para gawin mas hindi lang relatable pero actually competent at comparative, yung mga diskusyon ukol sa usapin, pag-uunlad ng ating bansa at of course related ito sa issue ng corruption. For the nth time po, sasabihin natin ito, 'no, of course, evil ang corruption. Sana lahat ng mga kurakot ng politiko hindi naman yung level na ating dating kapuso sa GMA Network na si Cara. Hindi naman na I'm not wishing them the worst, but sana naman makulong, sana naman hindi purong taas kilay lang mangyari sa mga kakasuhin na ng ating, Ombudsman Office. Sana naman hindi purong mga ano lang, ingay lang at cyclical news, and then minsan makasuhan pa tapos next thing niya after 10 years, mawalang sala yung mga kaso laban sa kanila sa Sandigan Bayan. Ayaw naman natin ng gano'n. Enough of impunity. So talagang in this world and the next world sana maparusahan itong mga kurakot na ito. Alright? No question about it. Having said that, sabi ko nga, to use the term in economics, yes, pag-usapan natin ang corruption, pero dapat pag-usapan din natin ano yung ugat ng corruption. Or pag-usapan natin ano yung mga solusyon sa corruption. At pag-usapan din natin bakit para sa karamihan na ating mga kababayan, ang mga issue na pinakamahalaga, pinaka-urgent sa kanila, klarong-klaro 'yan sa lahat ng mga SWS, Pulse Asia, Okta, WR numerous surveys, sa lahat ng mga surveys, authoritative surveys. At saka hindi lang tayo umasa sa mga public surveys, meron din tayong nakitang mga private surveys, privately commissioned surveys, including by top companies and conglomerates sa bansa. Klarong-klaro na development po ang prayoridad ng ating mga kababayan. Of course, again, for the nth time, masama ang corruption para sa ating bansa kasi nada-dilute, nada-divert, 'di ba? Yung taxpayers' money na sana pumunta sa tamang mga investments. Having said that guys, please, please lang, let's avoid itong, iwasan sana natin itong mga diskurso ng basically defeatist, cynical discourse. Pagdating sa cynical, defeatist discourse, at least dalawang genre ang nakikita ko diyan. Parang movie yan, eh, parang pelikula. Sa isang banda, yung isang genre ay napaka-elitista. Basically, ang position ng mga elitista na yan ay, maraming kurakot dahil maraming, diyan na nagpapa-vote buying at saka daming gano'n. So, basically, sinisisi yung mga mas mahihirap na kababayan natin sa problema ng ating bansa. Kung sana itong mga tao hindi nagpa-vote buying, hindi sila gano'n. Obviously, alam natin problema ang vote buying. Duh, of course, fact yan. Pero yung ganitong diskurso po ay nakakatakot dahil basically ang sinasabi natin dito is, ay wala ng pag-asa yung demokrasya dahil magkakaroon tayo ng vote buying, or worse, iniinsulto po natin yung dignidad, yung agency at decision making ng ating mga kababayan. Even if of course, on an ethical person level, klarong-klaro po tayo na dapat sana walang vote buying among other things. Now, of course, may problema sa genre na yan because it doesn't take in consideration maraming mga factors, including maraming pag-aaral na nagpapakita na vote buying also comes with coercion. Alam natin may mga barangay, may mga komunidad, may mga probinsya kung saan kung sakali hindi sumunod yung mga tao, dun sa mga gusto ng mga warlords, sa mga dynasties, meron mga repercussions yan. Some worse than the other. So may mga enforcement mechanism din yan. Hindi lang yan insentibo, hindi lang yan carrots, may mga sticks din. So I really suggest, and I'll post some links about this, about dun sa mga authoritative empirical evidence that suggests na may coercive element din ng vote buying sa ating bansa. So to just blame the voters for this or just to blame the politicians for this, para sa akin, it misses a bigger picture. And that brings me to the second level of cynicism. The cynicism na, ay, nasa kultura talaga natin yan. Hindi lang ito yung politiko, hindi lang ito yung mga ating mga kababayan na out of desperation or out of coercion or combination of both ay nagpapa-vote buying. Ay hindi, talaga nasa genetic po supposedly. Supposedly po genetic po. Nasa kultura talaga na napakakurakot natin, blah, blah, blah. And para sa akin, from a basic social activism point of view, basically it's dumb. Sorry. That kind of position is dumb because dun sa mga tao na nag-aaral ng actually social activism, at yung isang, just the other week lang, meron tayong workshop na inattend, meron yung may tinatawag na tolerance level. Pag ikaw ay nagpo-push, ikaw ay advocate ng isang polisiya at purong negatibo lang sinasabi mo at sinasabi mo walang pag-asa, nawawala ng interes ng tao, nawawala ng activism ang tao, nawawala ng stake ang tao. Sasabihin ng tao, alis na lang kami dito, right? Or magiging passive na lang. So actually, even from a social activism point of view, it's completely unproductive to make yung argument na, talagang napaka-corrupt natin or napaka-hopeless natin, etc. Kaya nga po, etong mga genre ng diskurso na napaka-cynical, elitist, ay masama para sa ating demokrasya, pero masama din para sa inyong brain cells. Because it's not empirically supported or in some cases, it's not properly contextualized. At pagdating sa issue ng contextualization, dito ko pinapasok yung international data. Natatawa ako kasi yung iba nagsabi, "Oh, dapat mga ekonomista lang may ganyan." Ano yung mga napaka-third world na mga gano'n, gano'n ang tao nag-iisip. Mga ekonomista lang dapat hello, sa lahat ng mundo po, lahat ng mga, tao na public spirited, whether ordinaryong tao, whether abogado, whether political scientist, whether philosopher, whether policymaker, lahat po dapat may say sa mga issues ng economics as far as of course, uh, insofar as informed din by data analysis and proper framework, which all of us are doing. So whether ito ay galing sa business sector like Stephen, whether galing sa political economy at research katulad natin, whether sa quantitative economics katulad ni Felipe, or whether sa economic history perspective katulad ni Leloy, or whether sa pagdating sa political economy and sociology like Walden Bello, lahat ng mga kasama po natin dito sa diskusyon ng sa diskurso ukol sa industrial policy economics, lahat pa naman tayo ay medyo kahit papaano naman, 'di ba? May kahit papaano naman medyo ginawa naman natin yung mga basic assignments natin. So, ang nakakatawa diyan is yung mga nagka-credentialist diyan, 'pag sinampalan mo yan ng, "Wait lang, katabi ko lang Berkeley lang 'to, katabi ko lang ano lang 'to, like mas marami pang citation na 'to than all of these other people combined," 'di ba? Ay, biglang, "Oy, kayo ang credentialist." Come on. And then 'pag sasabihin ko, "Okey, mag-usap tayo, nag-imbita tayo ng ganito, ganyan," ayaw nilang makipag-usap. Gumawa ng forum yung isa, ayaw mag-attend yung isa. What's going on here? So not only are we seeing lots of cynical self-defeating narratives out there, ang isang nakikita rin natin dito is a cynical lack of engagement na hindi talaga tumutulong sa ating bansa. Dahil kung hindi tayo magkakaroon ng informed discussion sa pagitan ng ating mga public thinkers, whatever their background, but as long as informed public discussion ito at mga informed thought leaders mga ito, paano naman umangat yung antas ng ating diskusyon ukol sa mga topics na napakamahalaga para sa interes ng ating bayan. Now guys, this brings me really to the meat of the issue here, which is the comparative perspective I say. At yung argument, yung aking argumento na don't give up on the Philippines. Not because perfect tayo, but precisely because we're imperfect but not so imperfect that walang pag-asa. Klarong-klaro tayo diyan. At hindi po ito ay isang issue na sentimental lang. Obviously, sentimental tayong tao and passionate. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Dahil kaya nga minsan, sige, kahit 3 tao lang manood, wala akong pake. Minsan 20,000 people are watching, sige lang, go lang. Tuloy-tuloy lang tayo dahil naniniwala po tayo sa ginagawa natin. At tuloy-tuloy lang tayo nagre-research at pupunta kung saan-saan. Isang taon na sa Stanford, yung isang taon sa Harvard Law School, ngayon nasa Oxford, yung naman, yung isang araw sa Cambridge, ganun. Pupunta tayo sa mga best schools, best universities, best centers of learning around the world para matuto po tayo ng mga cutting-edge ideas from economists, from political scientists, from legal experts, whatnot. At of course, interdisciplinary approach natin. Now, isa pa nakakainis minsan is meron tayong itong, hindi ko masabi na crab mentality pero itong epal culture na, okay, alam natin may problema and then may papasok na tao sabi niya, "Ay, may problema tayo dito, dapat itong gawin natin." Kaysa suportahan natin itong tao na 'to, na at least nag-e-effort, kahit binabash, kahit kung ano-anong ginagawa ng mga ibang ano, mga, mga ano diyan, tablet diyan, um, i-da-down din natin. Hindi, pero kulang kasing critic mo, ganito, ganyan. Hello, 600 words lang meron ako dun sa column ko. Gusto mong malaman kung ano yung theory natin ng modern state, basahin mo yung ano, buong ano, ah, syllabus natin nung nagtuturo tayo ng mga topics natin or magbasa ka ng buong libro natin about rise of populism, actually more than one. Or sige, basahin mo lahat ng mga long Substack or mga journal articles na meron tayo ng 5, 6, 7,000 words. Ayan tayo kaya minsan hindi ko alam, ano ba talaga interes ng tao? Ang interes po natin dito is mag-usap tayo ng masinsinan. Ang interes po natin dito is, matuto tayo sa isa't isa, or ang interes po natin dito is pilitin natin yung ating perspective at paradigm kahit alam natin laos na or may problema na. Dahil lang invested na tayo masyado doon, dahil yung funding natin, dahil yung status natin, dahil yung ating silo, dahil lahat ng mga yan ay nakasalalay sa ating blind commitment sa isang perspektibo at paradigm na obviously hindi na gumagana para sa ating bansa. Katulad ng sinabi ng kaibigan natin na si Felipe, close your eyes, 'di ba? Something is really wrong sa ating bansa. At yung corruption na issue ng corruption po ay reflection ng mas malalim na problema. Kung nagbasa po kayo ng mga libro, mga totoong libro na talagang trans-historical analysis by leading expert, katulad ni, for instance, yung Origins of Political Order ni Francis Fukuyama, or for instance, the Lineages of the Absolutist State by Perry Anderson. So right wing, left wing, whatever, mga top thinkers on earth, basically makikita mo talaga na ang analysis nila is, for every issue you discuss, there's another sub-issue. There's another causality. Sabi nga ni Fukuyama, he mentioned this case of a turtle over a turtle. Yung corruption po ay isang problema, but it's a turtle over another turtle. Right? Like yung mga theories ng Earth ay nasa, di ba may mga mythical, dati sa mga mythologies ay parang si Atlas ang nakahawak sa Earth or may isang ganun. So imagine there's always something beneath what we believe is, to use the basically yung Greek philosophical term, ultima ratio. Ito ang explanation ng lahat. Well, ang problema is hindi po explanation lahat ng corruption, because ang corruption po ay dependent variable din. Ang corruption din po ay resulta ng mas malalalim na problema. And then if you make it look as if the problem is genetic and cultural, it's self-defeating. It's doomer, and it's wrong, and it's basically self-orientalizing, if not racist, right? At we'll never get anywhere kung parang ganito yun, kung bata ka pa lang sasabihin mo, "Ay walang mangyayari sa akin kasi ganito, ganyan lang." Talagang walang mangyayari sa'yo, right? 'Di ba? Hindi natin sinasabi na maging delusional ka. Ang sinasabi ko is, improve mo sarili mo, aminin mo may problema, pero aminin mo rin na hindi naman end of the world cynical yung situation, and then you work it from there. But how are you gonna grow if you're not open to conversation, if not open to learning, if purong ang gagawin mo is pipilitin mo lang yung natuto mo 10 years ago or 15 years ago, or yung gustong marinig ng mga kaibigan mo, yun lang sasabihin mo. That's intellectual demagoguery. Or at best, just complacency and mediocrity. So having said that, balikan ko yung article ko today kasi kung saan pinag-usapan natin, ayan tuloy may mga kung ano nang lumilipat sa. So ito yung article natin today about basically, 'di ba? Para sa akin, isa sa mga pinaka quote unquote independent variable, kung may theory of change ka basically, 'di ba? Yung yung agent ng change na dapat meron tayo na wala tayo ay ang isang estado na capable, na autonomous, 'di ba? At willing to engage in long-term developmental policy. At hindi po galing ito sa ere or galing ito kung saan sa mga weird, I don't know, arcane or like, no. Ito po ay karanasan ng halos lahat ng ating mga lahat ng ating mga, um, kapitbahay na successful, right? If you don't believe me, and I've cited a lot of works on it. For instance, read the work by How Asia Works by a Cambridge PhD economist, who happens to be a journalist, kaya napakadaling basahin yung sinulat niya. Kitang-kita niyo dito nung comparison ng Pilipinas, tayo lang yung bansa sa buong rehiyon na hindi tayo nagkaroon ng matinong developmental state. Yung isang estado kung saan meron siyang bureaucracy, meron siyang leadership na regardless of political ups and down, nag-invest siya sa land reform, sa industrial policy, sa certain kind of monetary policies and fiscal policies to build the infrastructure, to bring in the human capital, to bring in the FDI, to create national champions, so on and so forth. Now, hindi po ito ay endorsement ng so hayaan natin gobyerno natin gawin lahat. No, no, no. Ang sinasabi ko lang dito sa aking article, it's the state stupid, which basically is a kind of a play on it's the economy stupid, nung sinabi ng isang advisor ni Bill Clinton nung sa kanyang election in 1992, kung saan basically kung gusto mong manalo sa election dapat unahin mo yung issue ng ekonomiya. Like, agree ako diyan. Pero para sa akin, para ayusin mo yung problema ng ating ekonomiya, ano yung agent ng change mo? Sinong gagawa nun, 'di ba? Hindi ka puwede umasa lang sa private sector dahil ang private sector alam naman natin guys, profit-oriented 'yan. Walang gagawin ng mga private sector na 'yan kung hindi profit-oriented. In fact, sa ating bansa napaka-oligarchic yung ating private sector. Tingnan na naman napaka-overcharged tayo sa lahat ng bagay. most expensive electricity, napakamahal yung toll fees natin. Uuwi lang ako ng Baguio, aabot ako ng 1,000 just sa toll fee lang. Sa ibang bansa wala pang ₱10 ang babayaran ko sa toll fee na 'yan at hindi pa gano'n kaganda pa yung mga highways natin. Magsa-skyway ka lang magkano gagastusin mo sa isang araw lang. Tapos aasa tayo sa private sector na ise-save tayo, sa mga oligarchs na ise-save tayo. So saan tayo aasa? Aasa tayo sa mga dynasties na obviously tutulong lang sila sa'yo kung bobotohin mo sila or kung ano na. Hindi tayo puwedeng umasa sa mga dynasties, hindi tayo puwede umasa sa mga oligarchs. Of course, dapat mag-mobilize tayo ng ating civil society dahil sila yung may paki sa bansa, pero limitado din yung kakayahan ng civil society. Objectively po, facts first, katulad ng sinasabi ng ating kaibigan sa kabilang channel, facts first tayo. Ang gobyerno po ay pinakamalaking contributor, as a single agent, 'no, as a single agent. Pagdating sa investment, pagdating sa growth, at napakalaki ng role ng isang estado in terms of shaping the coordinates of economic development. Kaya nga po, para sa akin napakamahalaga na bigyan natin ng pansin ang issue ng state development or state modernization. Hindi ako magle-lecture ng Huntington, Fukuyama, whatever here, but let me show a couple of graphs for you guys to understand what I mean by strong state. Kasi yun nga hindi natin naintindihan, eh. Parati natin sinasabi, kailangan natin strong leader. Strong leader mo kung katulad lang ni Tatay Digong na pang-bara-bara lang na pang-barangay lang yung pag-iisip, wala talagang mangyari sa atin. Or kung yung strong leader mo isang diktador na napakakurakot katulad nung meron tayo sa Marcos dictatorship, wala rin talagang mangyari sa atin. What we need is a strong state. Now, minsan you need decisive leaders who invest in strong state institutions, right? Historically, the extreme cases could be someone like, I don't know, Peter the Great, building a modern Russian army, the Academy of Sciences, blah, 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 right? But sa 21st century, sa modern era, sa contemporary era, ang kailangan po natin ay mga malalakas, capable state institutions, a strong state. So ano po yung indicators ng strong state? So meron tayong mga pag-aaral. For instance, there's this interesting study. I can show it to you. There's a formula for actually calculating correlation and also make almost causal claims. So for instance, this is a table by one very authoritative study, correlation of capacity and base indicators. So basically, ano po yung mga indicators ng a strong state? So dito makita mo yung so if your R score is somewhere beyond 0.5, that means very strong yung correlation mo dito. So you can see statistical capacity, bureaucratic quality, law and order, military spending per million, monopoly and use of force, rigorous impartial public administration, quality of public administration, quality of budgetary and financial management, right? State authority over territory, administrative efficiency, efficiency of revenue mobilization. Like some of them have an R score of 0.8, 0.78, 0.7. So napakataas yung correlation and you can almost make sometimes even some causal argument about that. So anyway, I'm not gonna do a kind of a lecture on this issue, but ang sinasabi ko dito is guys, pagdating sa issue ng strong state, hindi ibig sabihin na nag-EJK ka right and left. Hindi ibig sabihin na gigising lang si Tatay Digong sa gitna ng gabi, sabihin niya, "Ay, ilagay natin ng mga military diyan sa ano para walang pag hindi ka nag-mask, anuhin ka ng pulis." Hindi yun po yung strong state. Ano po 'yan, mga despotic leadership 'yan, pang pre-modern medieval mindset 'yan. Sa modern era, ito po yung mga indicators of a strong state capacity. So, if you look at international ranking, so where are we? Where is the Philippines? That's very interesting. Again, I cited that. So if you look at international rankings, so the darker the color, that means the more developed you are in terms of your state capacity, tax collection, quality of your bureaucracy. Yung bureaucracy mo ba, mga si Mokausan ba yung ASEC mo or si ano or yung naging ASEC mo ay isang napakagaling na sabihin natin abogado, ekonomista or eksperto sa public administration, etc. Right? Or yung DepEd secretary mo ba ay kumuha ng kung sino-sino kaibigan niya na taga-ano or yung DepEd secretary mo ay kumuha ng mga eksperto. So yun, kalidad ng bureaucracy mo. You can also have sustainability in terms of yung control sa territory mo. Sinisigurado mo ba walang insurgency, walang gulo, walang krimen, of course yung professionalization of security service. So may mga indices, may mga indicators po kung isang estado ay mahina at malakas. At kung titignan mo dito, interesting, of course pinakamalakas na estado actually ay among the freest country on earth, Australia, Scandinavian countries, Canada, right? Actually, mas mahina yung estado sa US and others because a strong state is not about gano'n, 'di ba? Ang strong state is puwede siya mag-provide ng basic services, education, matino yung mga leaders, may ayos yung birokrasya, meritocratic yung system, maayos yung tax collection, madali magbukas ng business. Gets mo? May rule of law, may predictability. Yun po yung mga indicators of a strong, capable state. Kaya dito kita mo Australia, Scandinavia, Canada, and Japan, ito po yung mga makikita natin dito darkest colors, meaning highest level of state capacity. So from a score of 0 to 2, the ones that are white, there's not enough data or very weak states. And then if you look at the Philippines, actually interestingly, we are very average. In fact, if I'll put the link there, if you go there, we have a high state capacity score than many of the other countries here. Na some of them are actually much more developed than us in terms of their overall economy or per capita income. But for instance, the Philippines actually, I think, has an even higher state capacity than, let's say, uh, I think Thailand, I suppose, than India, right? So you can check this on your own. In short, actually, hindi totoo na weak state tayo na walang kakwenta-kwenta yung state natin. By global standards, actually, we're a very average country in terms of state capacity. So kaya ka sabi ko, yung idea na hopeless case tayo, worst case tayo, ganun, doesn't make sense. This is another graph. You can look at it. This graph, for instance, shows yung abilidad ng estado to collect taxes as a share of its GDP, because collecting taxes is not easy. You need to have a very efficient BIR. You have to have efficient monitoring, efficient enforcement, rule of law, etc., etc. So that's a reflection of a strong state. Again, if you look at this kind of surveys, you'll see which countries are doing better. United States, for instance, is quite average, and then countries like Norway are very, very capable, etc. Again, the Philippines is almost somewhere there, exactly in the middle. I'll give you another one. This is interesting because ito naman, this is sorry, I just had to remove that thing. Hina naman ng internet dito. This is here, kitang-kita na sa gitna naman ng Pilipinas. Ito yung pagdating sa corruption and state capture. Ito naman dito, nakikita mo dito is, yeah, Singapore napakataas yun. By the way, ang lit-lit kasi ng Singapore kaya di mo makikita. Pero, kung it's gonna be a very, like, dark dot, di ba? Like, Singapore scores very well sa lahat ng mga yan. Ang taas-taas. So actually, you could be democratic. That's an interesting thing. You can be highly democratic like Scandinavian country and strong state. You could be highly or not so democratic or kindly authoritarian like Singapore and also strong state. Kasi nga, and kung titignan mo, interestingly, yung mga pinaka-strong capable state, yun din ang pinakamababa yung level ng deaths during COVID or krimen. So Taiwan is actually also a little bit darker. South Korea also, by the way. South Korea and Japan, you can see darker colors. So in short, kung titignan mo dito, Philippines again is very average, and all we have to do is just to improve our capacity, basic capacities, things that I mentioned a while ago that have a high correlation to a capable state, right? All of these factors that I mentioned here, diba? Interestingly, right? Pagdating sa issue ng corruption, exactly nasa gitna ang Pilipinas, right? So, like almost exactly nasa gitna ang Pilipinas. So, this is level of corruption sa baba, sa x-axis, and then sa y-axis axis sa vertical, yun naman yung capture ng state, meaning the oligarchic elites have basically rigged the system in terms of laws and rules to make sure sila na benefit. Again, we're doing much better than many other countries na much developed sa atin economically, like Turkey, like Thailand, you can see here, and you can see we're more or less in the middle here, right? Now, this doesn't mean we're fantastic. This just means that we're not as hopeless. We're not as like, wala nang pag-asa, wala nang, as some people say, wala na, talagang corrupt. Ibig sabihin, actually, we're like 5 out of 10, literally almost, like, I keep on saying that, like, we're not that bad. We have to just work on it. But how are we gonna work on it and make us go from here somewhere in average to somewhere here like Scandinavia, or how can we go from here somewhere average to go down here, which is the most developed? So dito yung mga Scandinavian countries dito sa baba, right? So yeah, you have Luxembourg, you have Denmark is the best score country, lowest corruption, at saka lowest level of state capture. You can see it here, right? You can see it here, right? So how do you go from here to here, right? So obviously we're not the worst, which is here, but we want to move down here, right? If it's a quadrant, how do you go from this quadrant, let's say quadrant 2, to quadrant, let's say 4, down there, right? That's the point. Pero paano naman tayo magkakaroon ng discussion na gano'n kung purong discussion lang natin is, ay wala na tayong pag-asa, ay tayong pinakakurakot, tayo pinakagano'n. Well, and this brings me actually to the theory of change. Again, let me show you something else which is very interesting. People don't talk about it. The Kuznets curve. This is a very interesting, may pagka parang bell curve shape siya. So this is the Kuznets curve. It's interesting. Developed by an economist. So basically the idea is that habang mahirap pang bansa, napakataas ang level of inequality because in your earlier levels of development, right, ang tendency dyan is mahina yung estado mo, maraming corruption, so yung mga oligarchs and big families and politicos will gobble up all of the newly created growth, right? That's classic case in the Philippines. For instance, 2011, 2012, 76% of newly created growth in the Philippines was taken home by the 40 richest families. Pero kahit papano, over time, as the country grows, the per capita income goes higher, what happens is that your middle class becomes stronger. Your media scrutiny goes stronger. There are going to be more vloggers. There's going to be more facts first, right? There's going to be more, Christian. There's going to be more, I don't know, all of this swashbuckling, muckraking vloggers. There's going to be more, well paid, well compensated, journalists, lawyers, bureaucrats, people are working on ombudsman. So, and then your middle class also begins to have more resources. Hindi lang sila magpapapa-vote buying, magsusuporta din sila ng mga matitinong politiko. So you create a strong middle class. You create stronger institutions. You create a strong bureaucracy. You bring down corruption. So actually, as you go up, the same way that inequality goes down, and there are a lot of correlational studies that inequality and corruption also go hand in hand. Corruption also goes down, right? Now, it used to be called modernization theory, but now that's kind of a term of abuse. But basically, that's the theory of change. But you have a bigger middle class, more mobilized people, better paid judges, better paid lawyers, better paid journalists, better paid, basically law enforcers, etc. And then you create the necessary conditions to pressure the oligarchs and the dynasties and all to basically do the right thing or come clean or pay the correct taxes, or if may nakuha sila na hindi tama, ibalik nila sa bansa. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is the theory of change. So if you look at corruption, just like inequality, it's sometimes the dependent variable. It's a reflection of low levels of economic development, low per capita income. In fact, you can look at all the studies. Like for instance, if you look at kanina pinakita ko dito, have you noticed what is the similarity here? Right? All the countries that you can see on this side, right? Remember, itong corruption, right? This is corruption. Have you noticed the countries that tend to be on the wrong side of things? They're almost exclusively all developing countries and poor countries or poorer countries. And if you look at countries here, they're exclusively almost all richer countries. Now, there are always going to be exception to the rule. And the Philippines actually is a middle income country. So you can see there's also some strong correlation there. That the idea is that as you become more wealthy, magkakaroon ka ng more mechanisms to fight corruption, right? Now, that doesn't mean na okay tayo sa corruption. That doesn't mean na hindi natin bigyan ng... That means go dun sa mga root factors, pupunta ka dun sa mga driving elements, right? Creating the waves that lifts all the boats, including the boats of fighting corruption. Kaya nga po, paulit-ulit namin sinasabi, ang dapat natin titignan is paano tayo umunlad. Kaya nga yung, di ba, kung maunlad ng bansa, maging mas tapat ang gobyerno or something like that, di ba? May different versions na ginawa kami ni Leloy, di ba? Or kung walang mahirap, mas daming, di ba? Mas kokonti ang corruption or something like that, di ba? So basically, there's a very strong correlation between higher economic growth rate, right, and economic improvement in the state capacity, and also parang ano siya, virtuous cycle siya. It's a virtuous cycle. As you move up in terms of economic development and all, you better deal with inequality. You better deal with corruption. In fact, the Kuznets curve is also used in post-material studies to analyze environmental consciousness, etc. Right? Kaya pansin mo yung mga bansa na nagiging more conscious sa environment, inequality, corruption, tend to be also countries that are moving in this. If you're super poor and you're here, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's a jungle. You cannot talk about anything. So you need resources. You need economic development to feed institutions, to build a strong middle class, to fight the corruption. Kaya nga mahalaga na balikan natin itong issue ng paano tayo maging isang maunlad na bansa kung saan lalaki yung ating middle class. Dapat mawawala yung corruption, mawawala yung kahirapan, and then also paano natin palakasin yung ating estado and mga other things, because when all of these things come together, they help to bring down corruption. Dahil kung kahit tomorrow, lahat ng mga kurakot na yan, ipapakulong natin or may mangyari sa kanila, babalik at babalik ang corruption kung hindi natin ayusin yung structural underpinnings ng what gives birth to corruption, which is lack of inclusive economic development sa ating bansa. We have one of the worst rates of inequality in the region, one of the worst rates of underemployment in the region. And all of these things actually make corruption easier. Because kung maraming mahirap, kung maraming unemployed, right? Kung maraming and kung hindi well compensated ang X and Y and Z, di ba? How do you create the institutions of checks and balance effectively? I mean, this is just a reality. This is not a morality tale anymore. Of course, morally speaking, masunog sila sa impyerno lahat ng mga kurakot na yan. But I'm talking about in real public policy terms, in real comparative analysis terms, in real evidence-based terms. Sabi nga ng kabilang channel, facts first. Ito po yung mga facts. Ito po ang facts, okay? Ito po ang facts. Kaya nga sabi ko, don't give up on the Philippines dahil actually we're quite an average country. We're very average. We're like, of course it doesn't mean it's good, but it means it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless. That's what I'm saying. May pag-asa tayo. We can move in this direction, in the right direction. Thank God we're not moving up here or worse here. Like, this is the worst place to be here, on top of here. Meaning, complete state capture ng oligarchs and super corrupt. So, unfortunately, countries like Turkmenistan, Syria, Haiti, Afghanistan, Congo, Libya, etc., they're all here, right? We're here in the middle. So, we want to move down here, right? Least corruption, least state capture. And look at these countries. Most of them are highly developed countries. And a lot of these countries here actually experience long years of economic development and industrialization. Kaya nga po, balikan natin to. So, hindi ko alam kung sinasabi ng tao na, simplistic lang analysis. Like, of course, if I have time, I would have gone down to all of this correlation analysis and 10 different indicators. Now, if you want to have a better appreciation, and I would really appreciate it, folks, more if you join dito sa Substack community natin, because what I'm trying to do right now is, of course, I have short columns. I have journal articles na academic with some jargons on this. It's par for the course, and then books. But what I'm doing now is dun sa Substack natin, we expound dun sa ating mga shorter columns and articles with more academic rigor, with more data analysis. So the latest one is this one, Industrial Policy, Philippines Needs an Economic Paradigm. So dito na-post natin some of this analysis na we have here, right? So please subscribe to Richard Darn Deep Dive. So dito na-post natin. So you can see actually some of this data that I'm mentioning here. I will do a follow-up piece on this. Also the details about what industrial policy and all of those things are. All right? So, yun po ang point natin dito, right? I'm doing my best here. Like, I'm doing podcast. I'm doing academic work. I'm doing TV interviews. I have a radio show. Lahat na lang ginagawa ko, guys. Hindi pa tayo hindi pa tayo nagkasal and all. Wala akong time. Like, I'm doing all of these things. And then to see some geniuses saying, oh, but ito, dude, go ahead. You can do it better than me. Go ahead, because I'm doing really my best here. And I don't think I'm doing that bad, because as last time I checked, we're getting millions of views for just industrial policy related discussions. It doesn't mean we're doing fantastic. Of course, we can always do better. But I hope there'll be more appreciation of this kind of discussions. And I hope sumama kayo dito sa ating komunidad sa deep dive. And of course, also join us on our Substack, Richard A. Darren Deep Dive, kung saan I'll post more and more detailed database analysis of these, more in economics, economic public policy, etc., and some of the issues that I'm focusing on while here in Oxford, right? Among other things that I'm focusing on. All right? Uh, wag nyo anin yung cravat ko kasi malamig talaga. To be honest, hindi sobrang lamig, as in sobrang lamig at nakakatulong talaga ito. And it looks nice. Sorry, it looks nice. Okay, so sorry, ako yung nagka-cringe dun sa mga iba na epal lang at saka kung ano nang sinasabi nila kaysa, "Guys, dude, you can do it better, go ahead, no problem." But in the meantime, let's work together, right? And let's try to normalize itong mga klaseng diskusyon na yan. At hindi lang tayo purong slogan lang. Hindi purong simplistic, shallow level analysis. Of course, dapat mag-mobilize tayo. But even in social activism, guys, kung purong cynicism or negative ang sasabihin mo, yung level of tolerance sa tao sa psychology, basic psychology and neuroscience yan, mawawala sila ng pag-asa, they'll give up. All right? And yes, as we speak, guys, I am in conversation with some of the big industrial companies in the Philippines, steel companies. I'm not going to say more, right? They're reaching out to me. I'm going to meet CEOs of big industries in the Philippines kasi gusto ko silang tulungan na tumulong sa ating bansa. So in my own little capacity, I'm trying to contribute to this issue. I'm trying to put together something, perhaps with some of the top officials. I've been talking to some of the potential presidential boss in 2028. I want to put this into their policy framework. Tama na po ang mga simplistic, shallow discussions lang. Of course, galit tayo sa corruption. Of course, demonyo yung mga kurakot na yan. But the discussion cannot stop at that level lang. We have to understand what are the underlying factors. We have to understand what is the way out of our problem right now. And we have to appreciate we're not really the worst country in the world. Far from it. We're actually a very average country in almost all key indicators that I mentioned here based on data. Katulad ng sinabi ng kaibigan natin, facts first. Look at the data. Do not cherry pick it. Look at this global data. I gave you 6 different indicators, 6 different studies, and you could see Philippines parati nasa gitna or kind of average. In fact, even better of our neighbors, right? When you look at yung kabuuan ng mga indicators ng what a strong state is, hindi pa tayo nandyan, pero pwede tayo pumunta dyan. Kung ikaw ay isang coach, basketball, football, whatever, right? Pag may nakita ka, 5 out of 10 siya, pero alam mo naman pag nag-invest ka, pwede ito maging, siguro hindi naging athlete, hindi maging next, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo, para at least pwede maging next, I don't know, national level player, international level player, then mag-invest ka, ganun din dapat tayo. Pero kung sabihin mo, sumablay lang itong player na to dahil, ay walang pag-asa yan kasi hindi yan parang Lionel Messi na ganun. Next thing you know, you're giving up on actually what could be the next big thing. And in this case, you're giving up on your own country when it deserves to have more love and respect and investment. All right? So hindi lang dapat corruption ang labanan natin, dapat labanan din natin yung close-mindedness, labanan din natin itong mga passive-aggressive mediocrity, labanan din natin ang lack of competent leadership and competent public policy discourse. And labanan natin yung mga masasamang economic policies that have not brought about inclusive development sa ating bansa. Close your eyes. Katulad ng sinabi ng kaibigan natin, something is really wrong also with our economic policies. We don't have real manufacturing. We don't have globally competitive industries, no offense. Yeah, we can talk about Jollibee and San Miguel beer and all, but you know what I mean. I mean more like VinFast, at the very least, right? Ang puso. All right. Breathe in, breathe out. All right? Okay, on that note, I hope guys na-appreciate nyo itong episode na to. Tuloy-tuloy natin ang discussion na to and talk to you soon. God bless. And don't forget to follow us on different relevant platforms.